Morning students, welcome to online learning class. We are learning about life of the early man 2. As we have already learned about the life of the early man, how they are living and how they are learning about farming. See children, before farming, people lived by hunting wild animals and gathering wild plants. When supplies ran out, these hunter gatherers moved on. Farming meant that people did not need to travel to find food. Instead, they began to live in settled communities and grew crops or raised animals on nearby land. Farming began 10,000 BC on land that became known as the Fertile Crescent. Hunter-gatherers who had traveled to the area in search of food began to harvest wild grains they found growing there. They scattered spare grains on the ground to grow more food. Before farming, people lived by hunting wild animals and gathering wild plants. When supplies ran out, these hunter-gatherers moved on. Farming means that people did not need to travel to find food. Instead, they began to live in settled communities and grew crops or raised animals on nearby land. They built stronger, more permanent homes and surrounded their settlements with walls to protect themselves. By around 9000 BC, people were storing grains during the winter, then sowing them in specially cleared plots. By 8000 BC, the farmers had discovered which grains gave the best yields and selected these for planting. They produced more food than they needed and were able to feed non-farmers such as craft workers and traders. The farmers exchanged their food for various kinds of useful or decorative goods. Domestications play an important role in the life of the early man. Let's learn about domestication. Domestication is the process of making wild animals and plants more useful to humans through selective breeding. Farmers select and plant only the best seeds from their last crop. Wild cattle are selectively bred to make a herd docile, easy to control. Dogs were the first animals to be domesticated 12,500 BC. They were descended from wild wolf cubs that had learned to live with human families who fed and petted them. By 10,000 BC, hunters were managing wild herds of gazelle, sheep, and goats, watching over them and killing the weakest for food around 7500 BC. Farmers were taking the best animals from their herds to breed them for meat and milk. A plug or plow is a farm tool for loosening or turning the soil before sowing seed or planting. Ploughs were traditionally drawn by oxen and horses, but in modern farms are drawn by tractors. Ploughs may have a wooden, iron, or steel frame with a blade attached to cut and loosen the soil. It has been fundamental to farming for most of history. The earliest plough had no wheels, such a plough known as to the Romans as an aerodrome. Celtic peoples first came to use wheeled plough in the Roman era. Modern tractors ploughing in South Africa. These ploughs have 5 non-reversible mould boards. The fifth empty furrow on the left may be filled by the first furrow of the next pass. The prime purpose of ploughing is to turn over the uppermost soil, so bringing fresh nutrients to the surface while buying weeds and crop remains to decay. Trenches cut by the plough are called furrows. In modern use, a ploughed field is normally left to dry and then harrowed before planting. Ploughing and cultivating soil evens the content of the upper 12 to 25 centimeters layer of soil where most plant feeder roots grow. Early humans lived in jungles. They did not know farming and hence spent most of their time looking for food. Early humans ate mostly plants, fruit, nuts, and roots found in the jungle. They used stone to kill small animals and ate their raw flesh. Early humans lived on large trees and natural caves to protect themselves from sun, rain, wind, and wild animals. Early humans covered themselves with large leaves of trees. They also used the skin of animals to cover their bodies. Early humans used stones with sharp edges to dig out roots and to hunt animals. They also used animals' horns and bones as tools. They learned to make spears by tying a sharp stone to a wooden stick to hunt wild animals. Early humans must have realized that fire can keep away wild animals and protect them from cold also. They learned that to make fire by rubbing 2 stones and 2 bamboo sticks together. They discovered that fire can keep themselves warm, create light, and frighten away wild animals. They also learned that animals' meat, when cooked on fire, made it tastier and easier to eat. Early humans used to move from one place to another in search of food. With time, they learned to do farming. They realized that they could grow their own food by planting seeds. They noticed that these planted seeds grew into trees and fruits grew on them. They learned that plants needed water and fertile soil to grow well, so they started to settle down in villages near river. After settling in villages, early humans learned to tame animals like dogs, cows, bullocks, sheep, donkeys, and horses. They used this animal for ploughing their farmland. They also got milk and meat from these animals. Early humans used to travel long distances in search of food and carry heavy loads such as wood for making fire and making houses, and also to carry animals they killed for food. After they learned to tame animals, they used this animal for carrying loads. They also learned to make raft by tying together straight logs. Raft helped them to carry heavy loads by the river, but traveling and transporting by road was still difficult and slow. They first learned to make carts that could pull along the ground, which were called sledge. They used animal to pull the sledge, but it could move only on smooth grounds. That's all for today. Thank you, students.